Here's a tip for applying the vinyl to the laptop's base like this. So once you have it flat, you want to cut the edges so that there's no overhang whatsoever. The reason that is that overhang looks cool because you can wrap the vinyl across the entire surface and kind of like tuck it underneath so that when you put this on top of the laptop, it's a very clean, seamless finish and you don't feel any seam. However, over time, what's going to happen is that the vinyl will slowly unravel and peel off. And then as soon as any vinyl gets exposed, then it's kind of game over for it. So what I recommend instead is to cut the vinyl flush with the edge so that there's no overhang whatsoever. And that way you get the durability. And then so what you do is you put the input cover upside down and then use a precision knife like this, like an X-Acto knife, to cut it, leaving nothing behind. And then after that, to try to smoothen out the finish, you want to apply a hair dryer here for several seconds to heat up the vinyl. And once that happens, you can deform the vinyl like this with your thumb to smooth out that sharp edge, and it will be a lot smoother. And the same goes for the touchpad cutout. For the keyboard cutout, you don't have to, polish it with your thumb because the keys stick out of these holes, so you will never actually feel the sharp edge that is there in most cases. But there are some very specific cutting tips I have to hopefully you can have a better result than I have. I still haven't finished this completely. There's still like some parts I have to shave out, as well as these things and the power button I haven't cut out yet. But basically, I'll give you some tips. So the best way that I found to cut this quickly without leaving any kind of weird marks behind is to first cut out a rough rectangle that removes most of the material for the keyboard cutout, key cutout. And then what I do is take a precision blade and then stick it out from underneath like this. Yeah. And then shave off the remaining vinyl like that. So a tip is that you have to make sure that the blade is exactly perpendicular to the surface. Because if it is slightly like this, then what will happen is that you'll scrape too much of the vinyl. And if it's on the opposite direction, you won't scrape the vinyl at all. You're just going to scrape the bottom of the input cover, which is no good. So you want it to be exactly straight, perpendicular. And then, I normally just like cut it counterclockwise like that. And then when you do the corners, it is very important that you use the tip of the blade because only that part has the most precision you need to carve out those corners. If you use this part, then the corners will not be as smooth. And another thing to keep in mind is that you want to maintain a motion that either goes straight like this or kind of brings the blade down like that. And that way you can encourage the vinyl to go along with your blade rather than crumpling and then jamming up your blade. And that can actually cause the vinyl to tear, which leaves a really bad mark. So yeah, you want to keep that in mind. And I would try to do it in like 1 or 2 strokes. Don't try to shave it off bit by bit. You want to do one smooth sweeping motion like that. Do that for however many keys there are on the keyboard, and then you'll be done that part. Oh yeah, another thing is that you may notice that the keyboard part is recessed, like it's inwards. So what you need to do before you cut out any of the keys is to apply hair dryer again, and then use your thumb to press against this area so that the vinyl will stick to this border. It is very important that you press it from the outside into the frame, and that's because initially when the vinyl is laid out on the surface, there's going to be some bubbles of air, and if you press it the wrong direction, you're going to push air bubbles inside into this area, and it's going to look really bad. An example of that is, it's hard to see on camera, but there's like this. There's once a really bad part populated by a bunch of bubbles, so I had to peel off part of the vinyl and then reapply it and flattening it in the process to remove those bubbles. So you can do that if that happens to you. But the best thing to do is to prevent that from happening in the first place. So always kind of like flatten the vinyl in this direction towards the inside of the keyboard. So yeah, that covers doing the input cover. Oh yeah, it is inevitable that you're going to make mistakes, especially because this is my first time using something like an X-Acto knife or whatever this is. But don't fret, especially if you choose matte black or some other generic color, then it is possible to use a paint marker to correct any of the blemishes that you've made. I don't actually know how long this will last, especially because we're applying this on the keyboard area, which is going to see a lot of contact from your fingers. So maybe it's going to wear out over time, and it would be a pain to reapply it when the keyboard is assembled. But yeah, those are my tips. If you really want a straightforward process, just don't bother with this surface at all. Like just cover most of the input cover, except leave out all of this part, the space between the keys. You can choose to either vinyl wrap this border around the keyboard or leave it bare. Both will probably look pretty good. And you won't have to deal with the hours of cutting this, because you have to make hundreds of cuts for this to happen. So yeah, hopefully that helps. This is kind of something you have to do if you want to customize your input cover for now, because dbrand used to sell some pre-cut vinyl wraps for this part of the framework laptop, but they no longer do that. I don't know why they discontinued it, but yeah, this is the only way to achieve a different finish on your input cover, other than like painting it or anodizing it, which I don't know how to do. But hopefully that helps in case anyone's trying to do the same thing as me. So yeah, hopefully your result is going to be even better than mine. I'm not too happy with this, but it's all right. We'll have to see once I reassemble this.